everybody, I'm Tom Vassell, and welcome to Week in Review. Yeah! This is where we take a look at all the videos we put out over the past week and tell you what we think about them. So many games, so many thoughts. If you'd like to know the full thoughts, because this is just a truncated thing of what we did all week, well, in the description of this video, there will be links. So let's go!
Hey everybody, I'm Z Garcia. Here's what I did last week. So I reviewed Fruto Play, which I gave a 7.5 out of 10 to. This is a simultaneous selection card game in which you are trying to collect a lot of various fruits and trying to avoid having a little bit of any one of them, because your score is going to be the multiplication of the one you have the most of and the one you have the least of. It's very simple, very bright and colorful. I think you can play it a little more strategically, or you can just kind of play a little more wildly and randomly and still have a good time. And I think those two groups can play well together even. So this is a very interesting little winner for me. I reviewed Nautilus Island, which I also gave a 7.5 to. This one is a set collection game with some clever things going on. It's a very small game. It's a very quick little filler. The box, though it's not very big, is actually bigger than the game inside of it feels, but I still had a really good time with it, and the game looks good, is a looker, and is an enjoyable little puzzle of collecting things, knowing when to play, collecting bonuses, trying to get the most victory points. Very fast, little fun filler. I reviewed The Art Project, which I gave an 8 out of 10 to. This is a cooperative game in which you are going to be rolling a lot of dice, moving around a map, and trying to rescue artwork from these thieves that have taken the, various historical pieces of art. Very abstracted, very light and straightforward, a fairly short game with a nice amount of luck. There's a lot of rolling, but the game is welcoming, looks good, is very vibrant, and I think plays quite a few players easily. You can play up to 6, and it's not too problematic. So I really enjoyed it for that. I think it scales a little better up than it does down. With 2 players is pretty nasty. The solo mode is, not something I'm probably going to be playing, but at 4 or 5 players even is really very straightforward and neat, and I love the setting. I love the look of this one. I reviewed First in Flight, which I also gave an 8 out of 10 to, and this one has a couple of really interesting mechanisms. This idea of going around a rondel, taking actions to build up your plane as you are discovering flight, the things you can do, the friends you make along the way that might be able to benefit you with their abilities, and then every now and then you take a flight, which involves taking your deck of cards, shuffling it, and pushing your luck, seeing when you want to stop pushing and start your descent back down. Really interesting mechanically. It just works well. It's really a clever idea. Does not outstay its welcome, I thought. Has a nice feel. Has a lovely amount of decision-making while still being lucky enough that the luck behaves as an equalizer for me. I did not find it to be, oh my gosh, I got hosed. It's more like I might be able to pull it off, even though I don't think I'm playing as well as everybody else. And I really enjoyed that. And then lastly, I reviewed Path of Civilization, which I gave an 8.5 out of 10 to. This is a tremendous Civ-themed game that plays so quickly for what it offers. It's so straightforward. Your turns are incredibly easy to understand and implement. And the game just has this wonderful forward momentum where every round you have to discard one of your 5 cards and you have to buy a new one. So you're cycling. It's sort of unstoppable, the passage of time, the growth of what you can do. And I thought that was represented in the game incredibly well. So this is a neat one. That's Path of Civilization. And that's it for me, everybody. I'll see you on the next one.
Week in review time. This week I took a look at 2 different games. 2 of them are expansions for Marvel Champions, which is my favorite game of all time. Still love Marvel Champions, but me and Joey took a look at Angel and Psylocke for Marvel Champions. I definitely gave Angel a 9 just because I really enjoy all the amounts of damage he can do. He's a super attacky character, even if he starts with a protection aspect on him. But I really love the way he can flip back and forth. He's a 3-sided card, and the way he can draw extra cards with the aerial cards and things like that. Psylocke is very versatile, and she can confuse and stun the enemy a bunch. Make sure to check out that review if you are into Marvel Champions, or if you just are interested in these 2 X-Men characters. And then also we took a look at Path of Civilization. This is basically a simultaneous game where you're basically building up your civilization by playing out these cards simultaneously to either gain cubes that can help you like get different things on different tracks, or acquire different leaders, or build different monuments, or to be able to get resources to be able to buy more of those cards, which can kind of upgrade your civilization. It's a very quick playing game. I gave it an 8. Definitely very enjoyable. But that's the 2 games I looked at this week.
Hi, I'm Wendy Yee, and today I have 2 games for you and a rapid fire roundup. That's pretty cool, right? So go watch that. The first one is Skyrockets. Now, this is a real-time game where you're trying to keep timers flipped over, but you're always flipping 2 at a time, and you're trying to get them not to run out. They all have different levels of sand in them, so it takes time. But what I liked about Skyrockets, I gave it a 7.5. Did I say that? I'm not sure if I said that, but I gave it a 7.5 because it was a lot like Kites, where you're doing the exact same thing with the timers, but this had a lot of different levels, and it did some cool things that I liked, where sometimes you'll put the timer on top of the deck that you're drawing from, and so you can't draw those cards until you flip back over that timer. So there's just some interesting things going on, and I think that they were much more creative with it, and it gave you a more fuller game than with originally Kites. So anyways, that was 7.5. The next one is White Castle. White Castle I gave an 8.5. I thought this was a super solid Euro. It's a dice placement game, and there are a few different main ways to get points, and I just really enjoyed the little bit of engine building that went on, as well as the game was quick. It was snappy. Like, the turns you took were big turns, and they felt full, and sometimes you would do 2 or 3 things, and I could see in a larger player count game that could take a little bit longer. But honestly, like, the actual game, it's 3 rounds, you draft 3 dice each round, that's it. And so even with those bonus turns and actions, the game is relatively short and quick. You get to enjoy your little bit of engine building, and it leaves you wanting more, which I always appreciate. So there you go. White Castle and Skyrockets, that's what I reviewed this week, so let's go ahead and see who's next.
Hey everybody, I'm Joey Evans, and here's what I reviewed this week. It was actually a relatively good week with a lot of high scores. One kind of drug it down there at the bottom. So let's start with that one. One I was excited about from Essen was Cat Horror Festival. It is a card game similar to Phase 10. I hate to say that, with like cats dressed up like horror people, and it was just okay. It was a 5. So probably the artwork is great, but that's it. All right, so then also from that, I, with Roy, did Marvel Champions reviews. I took a look at Angel and Psylocke. Psylocke I enjoyed, and she was great. I gave her an 8. Angel, I really like how beast mode you can go into it. Gave it 8.5. Then I looked at a Halloween game called Dreadful Meadows. It's pretty fun, where you kind of are growing candy out of the farms and all that stuff. Really enjoyed that, and 7.5. Then also Path of Civilization, which is Through the Ages 7 Wonders style of game. Enjoyed this one a lot more than I thought I would. Gave this an 8.5. Take a look at that review. Then Skyrockets. Skyrockets is similar to Kites. It's got those little like timers that you turn over, but I like it a lot more than Kites. So I gave this an 8. And then on top of that, there was one called Kinfire Chronicles, which is a campaign game dungeon crawl, kind of like Gloomhaven, but between you and me, I like it more than Gloomhaven. This one is really fun, so check this one out if you check one out. It is Kinfire Chronicles. It's a hidden gem, I believe. So, okay, those are the games I reviewed this week.
Well, here we are again. It's Chris time. Hey everyone, Chris. This week I took a look at 4 games, the first of which was Dreadful Meadows. I gave a 7.5. This is a fun game from Arcus Games. Beautiful aesthetic, great look. Not a great insert, but everything else about the production of this is fantastic. A fun little farming kind of a game. It has a very app game kind of like excitement. Ooh, you do this, it pops up these other things, these other benefits here. Good little family weight engine building kind of a game. Family weight plus, I think. So I like that one. Next up, Nautilus Island, I also gave a 7.5. This is a game from Theo Rivera, Johan Gupi, who are 2 designers I've been really enjoying. They're kind of pairs up together. They make a lot of these simpler kind of card games, and this is one of those where it does a little bit of the King Domino type thing. You can choose an action earlier for smaller benefit or later for bigger benefit, collecting cards, but it has those little set collection moments, those moments where you have to make good and juicy decisions. So it feels a little bit like Jaipur for more than 2 players if you've ever played that game. It's 7.5, I definitely recommend it. Next up, the White Castle. I gave an 8. White Castle's a wonderful dice drafted game. It's very fun, very quick. It almost feels like it's going to end before you realize that it will. 9 actions goes by very quick, but there's little ways to juice up and get bonuses there. So satisfying to come back to. And then lastly, First in Flight. This one I gave an 8. I was after my first game, I thought I was going to come in lower, but playing it a little bit more and just seeing the familiarity with it, a mix of a rondelle, push your luck. I like both of those parts. The biggest flaw for me is that watching people do the push your luck card reveal part drags on a little bit, but the game still manages to not super overstay its welcome. So an 8 from me. Lastly, I also did the final Essen travel vlog, so make sure to go watch those and see the last of the stuff that we got to see at Spiel, as well as some extra goofiness. So that is me, Chris, signing off.
All right, I took a look at 4 different games this week. First up was Fruto Play. This is a small card game, kind of trick-taking, also might be card shedding at times, depending on kind of what your strategy. Speaking of which, can't really figure out if this was a strategy game or a luck game. All I know is I was really bad at it. It has a lot of mechanisms that I don't really like, but I really enjoyed my play. So I came in at a 7 on this one, finding it kind of to be the exception to these mechanisms. So I would recommend it. I also took a look at Old Oak Prophecy, which is of the Kids Chronicles line from Lucky Duck. This is following up to Quest for the Moonstones. I came in at an 8 on the Old Oak Prophecy. I didn't like it quite as much as Quest for the Moonstones. I thought the way you go around and discover the map, while very, very clever and led to some fun moments of discovery, it was just kind of bogged the game down. There was no location that we didn't have to look at twice because the kids, and I played it with multiple groups of kids, they couldn't quite describe the symbols we were looking for. But other than that, there was a couple little hang-ups and tricks, but it led to some interesting discussions, and I really enjoyed the plays. So definitely enjoyed playing through that whole campaign, like I said, with a couple different groups even, and they all had good experiences. So that's an 8 for me. Also took a look at Art Project, came in at an 8 on this one as well. It's a fun cooperative game where you're trying to steal back artwork from thieves. And you're going around, you really have to cooperate on this one. I think I found the sweet spot to be a middle group, a medium-sized group, so maybe 3 or 4. Any more than that, and there's too much discussion, I guess, but not productive discussion. The middle rounds of this also seem to kind of bog down a little bit, where it just got to be obvious choices. Well, I have these 2 choices. This one kills me, this one doesn't. I guess I'm doing that one. But ultimately, I like the lot of cooperation in this game. I think it's really interesting. I think it has a really good escalation to it where the battles get harder, but your support gets cheaper. And so that's just a really interesting arc to the game and led to a really tense plays that required cooperation. And that's always good for me. And lastly, I took a look at First in Flight. This game really surprised me. I came in at a 9 for this game. I thought I would probably like it. I'm usually a fan of Genius Games, who this is one of their sister companies on this Antama game. And so I thought I would like this game just because I do tend to find their games very thematic. This is an interesting theme, trying to get your airplane built and up and on the longest flight possible, right? But I was just blown away by it. It gave me the same feeling as Skate Summer, where you're pushing your luck, but you have these opportunities to mitigate as well. And ultimately, you're building up for that very last flight, seeing how long you can go. So the whole game is a series of these failed flights, building up for that last big adventure. And I just found it to be very rewarding the entire game. There's these little moments where you're like, ooh, I got an extra resource. Ooh, I got a little further than I thought. Ooh, I've upgraded my pilot. I've trained myself up a little bit. It's just a very rewarding play. And the final epic flight just does not disappoint. So First in Flight, absolutely adored, and that was a 9 for me. That's it this week, though. Let's keep going.
Hey there everybody, it's Mike Delisio, and why am I shooting this week in review in front of my freezer? Well, that's because this week I reviewed the game Ice, which I gave a 9 out of 10, a seal of excellence. This game uses a more modern version of the action point system and gives some really nice feeling of exploration, a beautiful production, so definitely check out Ice. That's going to do it for me this week because I'm freezing. Let's keep it moving!
Okay, so for me, I took a look at White Castle. This is the new small box, although there's a lot of game inside it, from DeVere, small box game. A lot of good choices, a little too much downtime with 4 players, but that's my only real complaint. Some really neat dice selection stuff. I give it an 8 out of 10. Dreadful Meadows. This one I almost liked, a candy collection game, but it's really a farming simulator, which is fine. I like the theme a lot, but there's just a few things that I was like, I don't know that it just misses the mark for me. 6.5. First in Flight. This is a flying simulator game that there's a lot of interesting things going on in, and I enjoy it. So I'm giving it a 7, but there is a decent amount of luck. There's a decent amount of stuff going on that keeps me from making it more, but I love the theme. I love a lot of the things, and just the flying of the airplane itself is a lot of fun. Kinfire Chronicles. This is a huge adventure-style game, but not so huge as you might think. It's really unique, really different, and just excellent all around, an 8.5. I also did 10 short game reviews and did them in groups of 5 on Saturday and 5 on Sunday. And again, if you want to see the full, if you want to see those videos by themselves, check out our sister channel, Dice Tower Encore. And then Path of Civilization. This one is just such a fun game. I give it a 9. It is simultaneous play. Civilization, it just plays so smoothly. I find it to be incredibly enjoyable. Oh, I guess I got 2 other reviews I forgot to mention. I got Fruto Play, which is a little trick-taking game that plays so simply and so easily. It's like one of my games I would play with big groups of people. A lot of fun, 7.5. And the Art Project, A-R-T Project, about rescuing art. I enjoyed this one. A lot of cool things going on in this cooperative game about recovering art. Small box, but a lot of content inside. A 7.5 for me. So there you go. That's all the stuff that we did this past week, and we got plenty more coming this week. We'll see you then. Until then, I'm Tom Vassell, and this has been Week in Review on the Dice Tower.